This time, let's highlight the ages Paul mentions to show that he is contrasting the present wicked age that is ruled by the demons with the time before the ages, and that he is also contrasting the wisdom of man and of the demons with the wisdom of God, which existed before the ages even began. We'll also strip the passage down to its bare essentials and word it more literally to match the underlying Greek. I do speak of a wisdom, not a wisdom of this age, nor of the rulers of this age. I speak of God's secret wisdom, a mystery that has been hidden before the ages. There is absolutely nothing here to indicate a contemporary time frame. The language is cosmic, eternal, heavenly. Now let's read the critical passage. None of the rulers of this age understood it, for if they had, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. Let me paraphrase Paul. God's wisdom is not the wisdom of the world, nor of the rulers of the world, the demons, but a mystery hidden from the demons and mankind since the world began. If the demons had known that by killing Jesus, they would usher in God's overall plan of salvation and also put an end to their own reign of terror on earth, they never would have killed him. Where is the Roman government in all of this? Why is Paul contrasting eternal ages instead of his own generation? Paul's language is cosmic. Paul's language is eternal. The language is speaking of aeons, ages, not generations. The language speaks of God's wisdom that was hidden before the ages. Paul cannot possibly have the Roman government in mind here, since the Roman government did not rule over the entire age from Adam to Paul. Paul couldn't have the Roman government in mind here in light of what he wrote about rulers not being a terror to those who do good if they had in fact killed Jesus, an innocent man. Add to this the supporting verses we saw that did refer to the demons as heavenly authorities and rulers, as well as the pervasive and ubiquitous belief that demons were practically swarming the air between heaven and earth, and we can rule out the Roman government altogether. It simply doesn't fit the evidence. The only thing that makes sense is that the rulers of this age must refer to the demons. It took some work, but we've answered the question of who killed Jesus. The earliest Christians believed that the demons had killed Jesus at the beginning of the ages, when the world was created, and unwittingly initiated God's plan of salvation, and in so doing, sealed their own doom. Another piece fits perfectly into place. But before we move on, I do want to mention that there are two verses that, at face value, corroborate the gospel version by implicating both Pilate and the Jews for the death of Jesus. I want to simply give you the references now, but I intend to examine them both in a future video. I just don't want to spend time on exceptions until I've addressed the main points of the theory. 1 Thessalonians 2:15 through 16. In this passage, Paul blames the Jews for killing Jesus and bringing about the destruction of Jerusalem in 74 CE. 1 Timothy 6:13. Pseudo-Paul mentions that Jesus gave the good confession before Pilate. We have just unearthed another relic of early Christianity. Paul tells us that the rulers of this age killed Jesus. This is almost the exact same verbiage we see in Ephesians. The author of Ephesians refers to the demons as the rulers of this dark age. Also, the idea of age, the idea of aion, the Greek word that means a long extended stretch of time that perhaps goes on for eternity in one direction or the other. This does not leave any room for a Roman government. The rulers of this eon, it doesn't make any sense at all. But if Jesus was killed at the beginning of time, possibly around when the world was made, by the demons, it makes perfect sense. The demons were thought to have been rulers of the age between the fall of Adam and Paul's day. The entire age, the entire aion, the entire eon, the demons were thought to control certain aspects of human life. And it makes perfect sense in light of all the other passages that we've looked at. And so, who killed Jesus? Now we know. It was the demons who killed Jesus. Well, in the upcoming video, we're going to look at another piece of evidence that will actually dovetail into this one and corroborate this one. It's going to be an interesting document we look at that has two Jesuses in it. Two different Jesuses. One that looks a lot like the gospel Jesus, and the other Jesus looks a lot like the mythical Jesus we've been examining. This mythical Jesus descends through the levels of heaven to be killed by the demons who don't recognize him, and God raises him from the dead, and he ascends back through the levels to be with God in the highest level of heaven. And this is an interesting document that we're going to examine. And again, it's going to corroborate this video, this piece of evidence quite nicely. So you don't want to miss it. And I'll see you when we get there.